For the longest time, the axiom of necessary research held true. Professor for Cognition, Tal Aken, said, while walking across the stage. The auditorium was packed. 300 students from all walks of life, and an appreciable fraction of the known species in the universe, listening to his lecture on the history of research in the conglomerate. The axiom of necessary research broadly stated that a species would only advance a field if there was a need for advancement. A typical example are the irrational numbers, usually brought on by higher mathematics and the need for constants, such as the circular number. He wrote down the generally accepted symbol, together with the first 12 digits of the number beyond the duodecimal point. This axiom was shattered, however, once we discovered humanity. I see we have some in attendance. Rest assured I will not quiz you on the history of your own species. Let's see. You there in the fourth row, you are a Shokalan, correct? Please share your title, and if you can, you tell me what we found once humanity was brought into the fold. The tripedal insectoid in question stood up. Positive, Professor Tal Aken. My title is Cavial Dinte Hawk. It loosely translates to writes nicely and with flair. During the onboard process of standard form, the envoys of knowledge assumed that some of humanity's history must have fallen to anachronism or decay of the records of knowledge. This assumption was based on the fact that nothing else would explain their discovery of the complex number plane before the widespread use of electricity, or even the fundamental wave equation of matter. Tal Aken had his kiting quills up in satisfaction. Very good answer, Cavial Dinte Hawk. Yes, this was quite a shock for all of us. At this point, the conglomerate itself counted 3,000 and something recognized member species amongst itself, and yet none had shown this particular talent for research beyond the necessary. Out of those, only 20 had found the complex numbers before their need in quantum mechanics. Please take a look at the screen behind me. Provided are select timelines of scientific discoveries that relate to each other for a few select species. Here we see the typical order of operations of macro-scientific progress in the first 3 entries. You have pictographs, precise communication, basic mathematical operations, writing, the circular transport aid, and force-leveraged relativity early on, followed by all of the typical discoveries that bring a species from basic intelligence to higher intelligence. Even humanity in the 4th entry is not notable yet. However, if we zoom out... A rumble went through the auditorium. While the time spans differed a good bit, the first 3 timelines were similar enough. Most discoveries followed the well-known, established order. Humanity, on the other hand, was a mess. They found the mathematics of truth and false decades before their first foray into electronic computation. Somehow, irrational numbers showed up generations before their need in physics. The gap between the complex plane and electricity was even more off-putting for most students. They knew their own species' history well. More than a few got out pain relievers for their central nervous systems. To think that they had created those medications not 1,000 years after they still fought each other with metal sticks. And this is what truly stood out in regards to the last line. While relatively ordinary in the first part of their development, their rate of learning quickly dwarfed the rest. They'd even thought about how to communicate with other species outside of their solar system, generations before first contact. And Bob's your uncle, as our very own Professor Maria Koshihao would say. As some of you know, she is our first human professor for mathematics, and I was able to convince her to come up here and say a few words. It is, after all, better to ask than to simply speculate on a being's thoughts. A curious biped came out from behind the curtain. Only 0.6 on the average height scale, she walked to the smaller podium and enabled the voice amplifier. Thank you for that wonderful introduction, Tal Aken. It is an honor to be in front of all of you. This lecture, fundamentally, is about the past. Most of you are students of interspecies cognition, or historians themselves. However, I would like to explain why humanity is so different, in my own words. You never know when you need it. is a phrase that has led to a lot of discussion in our history. Did we need to discover the complex numbers? Not really. Yes, they made finding solutions to some equations easier at the time, but we did not have a need for them from an engineering or even physics standpoint. Gödel did not have to show us that any system that is useful enough is also inherently flawed. But we couldn't help ourselves. We opened all of the compartments, and even if the tool we found was not needed, we still played around with it and created more tools like it, hoping that one day their time would come. And this is what I would ask of all of you. Please do not discard your ideas or your passions, just because you think they have no application. They might just not have one yet. One of my ancestors, 6 generations ago, found some oddities in the behavior of certain elliptical spaces. At the time, he joked that if his research ever found an application, he would change his name to those of his favorite mathematician from history, and the name of his late professor. 20 of our years later, his set of differential equations led to advancements which are now a cornerstone of the conglomerate communication system all of you used for your applications. Otherwise, my name would likely be Maria Wilson, a painfully boring name if you ask me. It is hard for me to read the emotions based on your body language, but when I read your applications, I couldn't help but smile. Our expression for happiness at the passion of each and everyone who is now present in this hall. Even now I wonder what we will achieve together, the problems we will solve, and the friendships we will forge based on that passion and curiosity that unites all of us. Oh, and one last thing. A few moments ago, I received a message of confirmation. The Koshihao Foundation has opened an extended sponsorship program for all of you. Once you have finished your second degree of education and have qualified to do your own research, we will finance each project for a minimum of 2 years. It truly doesn't matter what you choose to explore, how applicable it is, glamorous or not. Do what you wish, within the bounds of legality. I cannot wait to see what all of you come up with. As such, thank you for lending me your auditory receptors, and please, enjoy the rest of the lecture.